Welcome to Hollywood Graveyard, where we set out to remember and celebrate the lives of those who lived to entertain us by visiting their final resting places. Today we're headed to the Inland Empire and Desert Memorial Park, where we'll find such stars as Frank Sinatra, Betty Hutton, Sonny Bono, and many more. Join us, won't you? Where do Angelinos go when it's a bitterly cold 58 degrees outside? We head inland to the desert. Where did stars of yesteryear go to get out of town and party? They headed inland to the resort town of Palm Springs. Where do stars of today go to get out of town and party? Well, they too head inland to the Coachella Valley. Today we're following in their footsteps, seeking warmer climes in the Inland Empire, the desert backdrop of some of your favorite movies and TV shows, where many stars had vacation homes, others would eventually retire, and others still would spend eternity here. Palm Springs and the Inland Empire embraced their role as Hollywood's desert playground, with street names like Kirk Douglas Way, Dinah Shore Drive, and Pickfair Street, statues of stars like Lucille Ball, Marilyn Monroe, and Buddy Rogers, and the Mary Pickford Theater. Palm Springs even has its own Walk of Fame. Palm Springs is about a 2-hour drive east of Hollywood. It's a beautiful and scenic drive, and en route you'll pass through the awe-inspiring wind farms in the San Gorgonio Pass. Thousands of whirling wind turbines sprout from the desert like massive white flowers. The future of energy is green, clean, and beautiful. We'll break up our time here in the Inland Empire into 2 videos. For this first part, we'll head just east of Palm Springs to Cathedral City and Desert Memorial Park, where many stars who so loved the desert would eventually be laid to rest. Here, where the unrelenting desert sun has baked and bleached many headstones to near illegibility. Desert Memorial Park was founded in 1956 as part of the Palm Springs Cemetery District. There are a number of monuments to veterans here as well, including America's first monument specifically honoring LGBTQ veterans, dedicated in 2001. We'll begin our tour of Desert Memorial Park just in from the entrance, in section B1 on the right. Here is the grave of Bill Goodwin. He was a radio and television announcer known for doing integrated commercials, which were ad spots woven into the plot of the show's storyline. He announced for the George Burns and Gracie Allen Show, as well as the Bob Hope Show. He also acted in a handful of films, including Spellbound and So This Is New York. He was found dead in his car of an apparent heart attack at the age of 47. A few rows up is Brad Dexter. He was an actor remembered for tough guy and Western roles, including as Harry Luck in the 1960 film The Magnificent Seven. He also had a role in John Huston's The Asphalt Jungle. In addition to acting, Dexter produced a number of films, including the Billie Holiday biopic, Lady Sings the Blues. He was good friends with Frank Sinatra, and even saved Frank from drowning while filming None But the Brave in 1964. He died of emphysema at the age of 85. Continuing north to B4, we find Howdy Doody's mom, Velma Dawson. She was a puppeteer and puppet maker, best known for creating the Howdy Doody marionettes for the Howdy Doody Show. Long before Sesame Street, the Howdy Doody Show ruled the airwaves of children's television in the late 40s and 50s. The first nationwide children's television show.
Say, kids, what time is it? Ho, 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 ho! Oh, well, howdy doody, kids.
The marionette she created is considered one of the great and invaluable treasures of television history, and currently resides at the Detroit Institute of Arts Museum. Further north is section B8, which has the largest cluster of stars in the whole cemetery. Near a small tree is Bobbe Brox. She was one of the Brox sisters, a singing trio in the 20s and 30s. With sisters Lorayne and Patricia, the trio began touring the vaudeville circuit and achieved success in New York on Broadway. They performed in Irving Berlin's Music Box Revue from 1921 to 1924, debuting Berlin's hit song Everybody's Step, which was written for the sisters. They also performed Singin' in the Rain in the Hollywood Review of 1929, as alluded to here on her marker. Next to Bobbe is her husband, Jimmy Van Heusen. He was one of the great songwriters of the 20th century, writing for film, television, and theater. He was good friends with Frank Sinatra and wrote many of his hits, including Come Fly With Me,
Come fly with me, let's fly away.
Love and Marriage,
Love and marriage, love and marriage.
and My Kind of Town.
It's my kind of town.
He wrote songs for films from A Hole in the Head to several Road to films, and Going My Way featuring the hit Swingin' on a Star, one of the 4 songs for which Van Heusen won an Oscar. West on this same row is another of the Brox sisters, Lorayne Brox. She was the eldest of the trio who performed on stage with the Marx Brothers and in the Ziegfeld Follies, and on film in the Warner Brothers Vitaphone shorts, as well as the Universal film King of Jazz in 1930. 2 rows north is actress Andrea Leeds. Her roles may have been few, but she did have an impact on audiences over the few years in the 1930s in which she performed. Her films include It Could Happen to You, The Goldwyn Follies, and Stage Door, which earned her an Academy Award nomination. She also read for the Olivia de Havilland role in Gone with the Wind. Her interest in acting waned in the late 30s, and she decided to retire from the screen to raise a family, eventually dying of cancer at the age of 70. In the next row, we find Old Blue Eyes, legendary singer and actor Frank Sinatra, arguably one of the greatest entertainers of the 20th century. The legendary crooner got his start as a singer for band leaders like Harry James and Tommy Dorsey in the 30s and 40s. His profile quickly rose, and he desired to go solo, but Tommy Dorsey wouldn't release him from his contract. So rumor has it that Sinatra's godfather, an underboss of the Genovese crime family, intervened and secured his release. An episode that inspired the Johnny Fontane character in a similar scenario in The Godfather. He signed as a solo artist in 1943, becoming an idol to the Bobbe Soxers, the teenagers of that era. Over the decades, he would become one of the most iconic voices and best-selling music artists of all time, with hits like My Way, New York, New York, Luck Be a Lady, and Fly Me to the Moon.
Fly me to the moon. Let me play up there with those stars.
About the 40s, he also dabbled in acting in musicals like On the Town, and reached his prime as a serious actor in 1953's From Here to Eternity. The role earned him an Oscar.
Report to the orderly room in 10 minutes.
What? I got a pass.
Not anymore. Anderson's sick. You're on guard.
I just had guard yesterday. Why me?
I'll tell you why, You should have gotten dressed faster.
He would continue to perform in notable roles including The Man with the Golden Arm, The Manchurian Candidate, and the original Ocean's 11 with his Rat Pack buddies, which consisted of fellow Las Vegas entertainers Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Joey Bishop, and Peter Lawford. By then, Frank had become a top-billing residency performer, personifying the glamour of Las Vegas. He continued to perform until his health began to fail, and he died of a heart attack at the age of 82. At his funeral, several items of personal significance were placed in his coffin, including Tootsie Rolls, a bottle of Jack Daniels, and a roll of dimes. Frank had always carried dimes with him, a habit stemming from the kidnapping of his son, and feeling the need to always have enough dimes on him in case he needed to use a payphone. Many have been inspired by him, others have tried to emulate him, but there will never be another quite like Frank Sinatra. Frank is surrounded here by friends and family. To the left are his parents and uncle, and buried next to him on the right is his wife, Barbara. She was Frank's 4th wife, marrying in 1976. She had also been previously married to Zeppo Marx of the Marx Brothers. Her career began as a model and showgirl, and later in life she was heavily involved with Frank in social and philanthropic causes, establishing the Barbara Sinatra Children's Center, which benefited abused children. She lived to be 90. Further down this row is one of Frank's longtime friends, Jilly Rizzo. He was a restaurateur whose saloon was a popular celebrity hangout in the 60s. Rizzo was also a frequent guest on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. He was killed on his 75th birthday when his car was struck by a drunk driver. 2 rows back and east is composer Frederick Loewe, known for his musicals of the 40s and 50s and collaboration with Alan J. Lerner. He's perhaps best known for the musical My Fair Lady. A critical and popular success, My Fair Lady set the record for the longest run of a Broadway show to that time, and would also be made into a film starring Audrey Hepburn. His film music includes Gigi in 1958. After composing Camelot in 1960, Loewe decided to retire to Palm Springs. He died from cardiac arrest at age 86. Up and to the right are two members of the Gabor family. Jolie Gabor was a Hungarian-born socialite and the mother of Zsa, Eva, and Magda Gabor. She got her start as a jeweler in Budapest. As Nazism spread through Europe, she relocated to America, where she continued her costume and jewelry business, and pressed her daughters hard to reach their own fame and fortune. She lived to be over 100. 2 months later, her eldest daughter Magda passed away. Magda Gabor is perhaps the lesser known of the Gabor sisters, never quite reaching the same success as Zsa or Eva. She had supporting roles in a couple of Hungarian films, but never landed on that coveted Hollywood silver screen. In true Gabor fashion, she married 6 times, including briefly to actor George Sanders, who had also been married to her sister Zsa. She died of renal failure at age 81. A few rows up and back west is Rebel Randall, an actress, radio personality, and model. The glamorous brunette was labeled the most beautiful girl on TV and the glamour girl of Hollywood in 1949. During World War II, she was a popular GI pinup girl, featured as Esquire's centerfold at least twice. And in the 1950s, she became a radio jockey and hostess for the Armed Forces radio service, with the popular shows America's Calling and Jukebox USA. On screen, she could be seen in films like Roaring City and Fall In. She died of natural causes at age 88. North, just before the sidewalk, is the grave of William Powell. He was one of the most popular actors of the 30s and 40s, a major star at MGM. He could often be seen alongside Myrna Loy, including in The Great Ziegfeld and The Thin Man detective series.
What happened if it isn't Philo Vance?
I beg your pardon?
Who said that? I haven't seen you since you solved the Kettle murder case. How are you?
Well, for the love of... Nick Charles, what are you doing up there? Impersonating a book cover?
Powell was nominated for an Academy Award for his performance in The Thin Man, and was nominated an additional 2 more times for My Man Godfrey and Life with Father. William was romantically involved with 2 of Hollywood's tragic blondes. In 1931, he married Carol Lombard, with whom he had starred in My Man Godfrey. They divorced 2 years later, but remained on good terms. He was devastated by her death in a plane crash in 1942. Powell was also involved with Jean Harlow, with whom he had starred in Reckless in 1935. They were engaged to be married, but after Jean's untimely death at the age of 26, William paid for the private room in the Great Mausoleum where she and her mother are entombed. The third crypt there was originally reserved for Powell, but it remains empty to this day. After marrying Diana Lewis and remaining with her until his death at age 91, William Powell was finally laid to rest here with her. Next to William is his son, also named William. He became a television writer, penning episodes for shows like Bonanza and Death Valley. He suffered from depression much of his life, and health problems forced him to quit writing. At the age of 43, he took his own life, stepping into the shower and repeatedly stabbing himself. The note he left partially read, "Things aren't so good here. I'm going where it's better." To the right is William Sr.'s wife, Diana Lewis, nicknamed Mousie. She was an actress seen in films like It's a Gift, Gold Diggers in Paris, and Cry Havoc. She was also Andy Hardy's love interest in Andy Hardy Meets Debutante. Diana met and married William Powell in 1940, and she retired from acting a few years later. The couple remained together for 44 years until his death. Diana died of cancer at age 77. 1 row up is Marjorie Rambeau. She was an actress twice nominated for an Academy Award for her roles in Primrose Path and Torch Song. She also took over the role of Tugboat Annie after the death of Marie Dressler. Her final film role was in the Lon Chaney biopic Man of a Thousand Faces in 1957. If you're a fan of The X-Files like I am, you'll recognize this next name. Under a tree past the wall is Frank Scully. He was a writer and columnist, a regular contributor to Variety magazine. In 1949, he published 2 columns that claimed dead extraterrestrials were recovered from a flying saucer crash. In 1950, he expanded on the theme in his book, Behind the Flying Saucers. The character of Dana Scully from the X-Files television show is named after him. West on this same row is Eddie Howard. He was a singer and band leader in the 40s and 50s, whose hits include To Each His Own and It's a Sin. The rise of rock music led to the decline of his popularity, and Howard died in his sleep of a cerebral hemorrhage at the age of 48. For our next stop, we'll continue north to section A14. Most of the way in is Busby Berkeley. He was a director and choreographer of musical films, considered one of the greatest choreographers of the genre. After serving in World War I, he discovered he had a talent for staging extravagant dance routines, a skill which quickly earned him a prominent place on Broadway, including working for Ziegfeld. In Hollywood, he convinced producers to let him try his hand at translating his skills onto the big screen. His first big hit was 42nd Street. Throughout the 30s, he became known for his visually stunning and extravagantly choreographed dance numbers, which often included overhead shots, close-ups of the chorus girls, geometric patterns, and kaleidoscope patterns. Berkeley was nominated for 3 Oscars for Varsity Show, Gold Diggers of 1935, and Gold Diggers of 1937. He died of natural causes at the age of 80. Let's continue north to section A23. Most of the way in, we find the grave of Cameron Mitchell. He was a prolific actor of film and television, perhaps best remembered for his thriller and western roles, including as Buck Cannon in the western series The High Chaparral. On Broadway, he originated the role as Happy Loman in Death of a Salesman, a role he reprised in the 1951 film adaptation. He can also be seen alongside Marilyn Monroe, Lauren Bacall, and Betty Grable in How to Marry a Millionaire. Across the street east is section B30. In a short ways past a small tree is Josephine Hill. She was an actress, principally of the silent era, known for her western roles and for being one of the most adept horsewomen in the film business. She starred in over 100 films, including several with husband and fellow western star Jack Perrin. Let's continue northeast in this same lawn to section B34. Not far from a hedge is the grave of Chris Alcaide, known for roles as villains in film noirs and westerns, films like The Big Heat and Gunslinger. He made appearances on many of the great television westerns as well, like The Rifleman, Rawhide, and Bonanza. He died of cancer at the age of 81. Northwest, next to America's Plaza, we find the grave of entertainer and politician Sonny Bono. He rose to fame with his collaboration with his second wife, Sherilyn Sarkeesian. The singing duo became known as Sonny and Cher. He wrote and produced many of their hits, including the song perhaps most closely associated with the duo, I Got You, Babe. I got you, babe. The duo went on to host their own variety show, the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour, which ran from 1971 to 1974. Then The Sonny and Cher Show from 76 to 77. As an actor, he made guest appearances on shows like Fantasy Island, and his film roles include Airplane 2 and Hairspray. In the 1980s, he decided to enter politics, becoming mayor of Palm Springs, and was eventually elected to Congress. Bono died in a skiing accident, striking a tree near Lake Tahoe. He was 62. His epitaph, "And the Beat Goes On," was another of Sonny and Cher's popular hits.
The beat goes on. The beat goes on.
Back and to the west is Marian Marsh. She was an actress, often playing the wide-eyed, innocent damsel in distress, as alongside John Barrymore in the 1931 film Svengali.
You shall see nothing, hear nothing, dream of nothing but Svengali.
Svengali. Svengali.
She can also be seen in Crime and Punishment and in The Black Room with Boris Karloff. Aside from a few television roles in the 50s, Marian retired from acting in the 1940s and dedicated much of her later life to environmental causes. She lived to be 93. Further west is Earl Hagen. he was a composer best known for his television music, including themes for popular shows like The Dick Van Dyke Show, The Mod Squad, and The Andy Griffith Show. In fact, not only did he co-compose the Andy Griffith theme, he's also the man whistling it.
The Andy Griffith Show, starring Andy Griffith, with Ronnie Howard. Also starring Don Knotts.
Hagen was nominated for 1 Oscar for Let's Make Love. He died at the age of 88. Heading toward the road west, close to the small wall, is the grave of Betty Hutton, the multi-talented actress of stage and screen known for her work in musicals. After performing on Broadway, she made a splash with movie-going audiences in 1942's The Fleet's Inn, and she became a major star 2 years later in The Miracle of Morgan's Creek. Today, she's perhaps best remembered as Annie Oakley in the 1950 production of Annie Get Your Gun.
Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you.
Oh, you can.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Other top billing roles include The Greatest Show on Earth. On television, she had her own show, The Betty Hutton Show, in 1959. She struggled through the 60s and 70s, but had a Broadway comeback, taking over the role of Miss Hannigan in the original production of Annie. She retired in Palm Springs, where she died at the age of 86. Across the street west is section A32. South of the road is Bill Miller, known as Mr. Entertainment. He began his career on vaudeville as a dancer in the duo Miller and Peterson. After vaudeville, he owned nightclubs where he would book top acts from Frank Sinatra to Mae West. He eventually settled in Las Vegas, where he would become entertainment director at several clubs and hotels. There, he popularized the lounge act concept and helped revitalize careers of acts like Sonny and Cher and Elvis Presley. He retired here in the desert and lived to be 98. Finally, we continue northwest and find another entertainer Bill Miller had often engaged, Ralph Young. He was half of the singing duet of Sandler and Young with Tony Sandler. The duo rose to fame in the 60s with appearances in Vegas at the Desert Inn Hotel and the Ambassador Hotel in Hollywood. They were often headliners in various Vegas hotels through the 70s and performed as guests on every major TV variety show, including The Ed Sullivan Show. In that era, they became one of the most popular duet acts in show business. In the 1980s, Young retired from the stage and settled down in Palm Springs, living to the age of 90. And that concludes our tour. What are some of your favorite memories of the stars we visited today? Share them in the comments below, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more famous grave tours. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Look what I found in Palm Springs, the Hotel California. Such a lovely place. Don't worry though, I didn't check in, otherwise I may have never left. Eerily though, the song played on the radio a short time later.
Welcome to the hotel.